Hello everyone and welcome to my videos. For this video we are gonna make effects from scratch. So this one's gonna be pretty basic. We are just gonna make some sparks. And I'm gonna show you how to make the shaders, how to make the material, how to make the texture in Photoshop, and then of course how to make the particle system. So as I said, this one is going to be very basic. So once again, if you know how to use Shuriken in Unity, I don't think it's going to be very useful for you. But if you don't, then just stay with me and maybe we're going to learn a thing or two. So let's get started. First of all, we need to create a shader. For this, I'm using ShaderForge here. How can you get ShaderForge? So that's a plugin. You can go into the asset store. If it's not there, you can click here, Control 9. So it's not free, but I highly recommend it. I couldn't do my effects without it. So you just go here, you buy it, then you click on download, and once it's done, it will be directly imported into your scene, into your project, sorry, and then you can just start creating your shaders. So that's what we're gonna do here. So right click, create folder, some hierarchy is always nice, create folder shader, and inside it, create shader, just a normal one, and for sparks, we are gonna need some additive shader. I'm gonna name it base because it's gonna be a very easy one. So click on replace with ShaderForge, and here we are in ShaderForge. So how does it work? Here you have a lot of nodes. Here, that's all the nodes you can use. What we're gonna do is just tell the computer what we want in each of these channels. We're not gonna use all of them, only the emission for this one. So this is gonna be, once again, very basic. Just follow what I do, and if you have any questions, just ask in the comments and I will reply. To do this, what we need, first of all, is a texture. So just press T on your keyboard and this will appear. So that's all the nodes that start with a T. So for this one, we need a texture set first, and then a texture 2D. So texture set is a reference to a file in your project. We don't have one yet, we're gonna create it later, but let's just name it main texture. That's always how I name my main textures. So we need to take this text into this text, so that when we take the file reference, it's going to be into this node. And with this node, we can have all the channels of the texture. So for this one, we're going to make the texture in Photoshop, but I'll do it later. Now what we need is just to take the RGB channels and put them into the emission. You can see here it's changed because by default, it's white. I put it to black and compile, it's going to be black. And let's just set it back to white. Then all we need to do is just go to blending. So this is how the material is going to look like when compared to the other objects behind or in front of it. So for this one, we need just additive. Compile, and that's it. So we're going to make a very simple glow texture in Photoshop. So Control N, new file, a power of 2, maybe even less than this, 256. There, create it. Okay. So let's just invert the colors to have a black background. Control I, there. And let's just take the brush, white color, new layer. New layer is Control Shift N, by the way. And let's just say I want 100 pixels, a bit more opaque. And here we have Control select multiple layers in Photoshop and align vertically and horizontally. So maybe we want it to be a bit brighter, so make it bigger. And let's blur it a bit. Blur, filter, blur, Gaussian blur. Maybe not that much, maybe just 10 pixels should be enough. And okay. Yeah, that looks like a nice glow. So let's just save this into our project. So show in Explorer, here, assets. Let's create a new folder, textures, here, oops, here, and let's name it glow01, because we're gonna make a lot of different glows in the future videos. Here, 24 bits 5 pixels, and that's okay. And now I have this glow here, because it's in the hierarchy, textures, glow. Okay, let's just take it over, select, double click on glow, and you have your glow here. So you can select different meshes to visualize the shader and how it's gonna look like. Here I'm gonna use a quad because that's what particles are. And yeah, that's all we need. Now what we need is multiply, because we're gonna multiply this by the color of the particles. So press V, select vertex color, and this is basically the color I will give to the particle. As we saw in the last video where I showed the color of a lifetime, for example, or the start color, this color is going to be fed here. So if I choose to feed it the RGB and multiply it, we are going to have the RGB channels. Then I can also multiply it by the alpha, and it's going to be multiplied by the alpha. So that's all we need for this additive glow shader. Now I can select it, right click, create material. I can name it additive base, but I'm gonna know it, recall it glow01 here. And I'm gonna create a new folder, materials. Whoop. Here. So now that we have the material, already with the texture and the multiply, what I need is a particle system. So let's create a particle system. Right click, particle system. So that's our very basic particle system in Unity. What we need now is just to give it the right material. So this one. Whoop. It's almost the same, because the texture is very similar to the default particle texture. But it's gonna be pretty different. You'll see in a bit. Okay, so now we're gonna make some sparks, and I'm gonna make them, I don't know, let's say I want them to be orange. I go into start color, orange. Well, yeah, that's it. But that's not really what I want, because sparks at the beginning are very bright and yellow, and when they fade, they tend to get red. So I'm gonna keep them in the white for the start color, and then I'm gonna activate the color over lifetime module. Here, I'm gonna select a bright yellow, here, and then I'm gonna select red. Not red, I almost never use red, because I never use extreme colors, because they're you lose a lot of details when you use them. You'll see that in other videos I explain that. But for here, just know extreme colors are not always good ideas, for me at least. And particles and sparks tend to disappear after a while. So create a full alpha here, so 255, and then take this one and put it down to 0. So here you can see they are fading, and they are yellow at the beginning and red at the end. So that's almost what we want. But I want them to be faster, because here they don't look like sparks at all. They just look like, I don't even know what, just spheres going up in the sky. And that's not what I want. So I'm gonna make them faster. I want them to have a start speed of maybe, I don't know, 25. But now they go way too far, and that's not what I want either. So let's say they don't live that much, maybe half of it, 2.5. So yeah, that's a bit better already. What else can I do? I add some gravity. So activate the gravity by putting 1, but that's not enough. Let's put it to 4. Yeah, that's already a lot better. Now, let's say I want more sparks. Let's put the rate to, I don't know, maybe 30. Yeah, that's already a lot better. I said these particles are all the same. They all have the same size and the same direction, and I just don't want that. So for starters, we're gonna activate in the renderer, instead of using the billboard render mode, we're gonna activate the stretched billboard. So that's already a lot better, because as you can see, they have a direction. You can see that this one is going this way. But that's not really what I want. I don't want them to have the same length scale all the time. I want them to have a scale based on their speed. So I'm gonna use this one. And maybe this. Dot 1. Maybe a bit more. 0.2. Now, in between, like this. This is already better. Now let's give them a bit more variation in the size. Start size, random between 2 constants. So in this case, the game will, the engine I mean, will choose between 0 and 1 for all the sizes of each particles. So I don't want them to have 0 size, because you just won't see them. So let's say I want them to have 0.2, and 1 seems a bit too big for me. So maybe 0.6, yeah, that's already better. Maybe a bit more, maybe 0.75. Yeah, like this. That's already better. So here we have our first very basic particle system. But I'm not very happy with the colors, so let's add maybe some randomize. I can keep the white, so they have this color, and then maybe a few particles will be a bit hotter. This. We don't really see much difference. Maybe I need to make them a bit bigger. Here too. Okay. But now they all have the same speed. I don't want that. I want sparks are not always at the same speed. They are very chaotic. So I want them speed to be between 2 constants too. So maybe between 10, and some will be a bit faster, so 40. Maybe that's a bit too much. Maybe 30. Yeah, that's better. Maybe more sparks would be nice too. 100. That's a bit much, but you know, let's just have fun. So that's a good start for some sparks, but they are a bit too soft. Sparks are not soft. Sparks are can be very sharp, and here they just look like, I don't know. They don't look like sparks very much. So let's go back to our texture and create a new one. Ctrl-N, new document, invert the colors, Ctrl-Shift-N for new layer, and let's create a simple sparse texture. So I'm not gonna be very artistic on this one, but just so you can see different styles. Let's do this, and let's add some glow to it. So I'm just gonna, yeah, sorry, I'm a bit too fast. Ctrl-A to select everything, Ctrl-Shift-C to copy everything, Ctrl-V to paste everything. So let's add some Gaussian blur to it. Oh, that's a bit too much. Blur, Gaussian blur, 5. Okay. And let's do Ctrl-T to transform it, and that way. And then maybe this, and more blur, sorry. And lighten. Reduce the opacity. And let's say it's a bit too much, so like this. Okay, and let's copy everything again. Let's paste everything again, and reduce the opacity like this, so that we have a sharp edge, but still some glow around it, because sparks are hot, and I want them to have a glow around it a bit, like this. So always, to make sure, all the time I make such a texture, I always verify I don't have some values here. And how do I do that? Because if I have some values here, I'm gonna show you what it looks like. I'm gonna just do this and this and this and this, and just put light. And this is gonna be a bit ugly. So close 02. Let's call it sparks 01. And let's take this one, duplicate sparks 01 for the material. And let's put it here. And let's feed it to the particle system. And if you see the sparks here, you can see an edge here, because I'll show you, whoops, the wireframe. I can't actually see the wireframe. Here, wireframe. Okay. Pause. Because the wireframe of the quad stops here, as does the texture. I have some white here, so I have it here too. So to avoid this, delete, I always create a level layer. And I always put it way here. And here I can see I don't have any information here. It's completely black on the edges. So that's all good. If I had some information, you could see I have white on the edges, and I don't want that at all. So this way I can see I don't have any information there. So that's all good. I can save this. Sparks. Okay, and here. Good. That's just what I want. But doesn't really look good in motion, does it? Nah, that's not good at all. How can I fix this? Maybe less particles. And maybe more random. 535. And more. Yeah. And maybe this is a bit too much. Yes, that's already a lot better. They are a bit too big though. So, like this. And now to make them look more like sparks, I'm gonna add a plane. With the object, plane. Let's make it bigger, 5 by 5. Remove the wireframe. Let's activate the collision. 3D, world, sorry. And then 3D. Okay, as you can see here, they are colliding with the plane. Just by activating a collision and putting it to world. If I have plane, I have to take the plane here. That's actually good already, but they are bouncing way too much. So let's just say, instead of bouncing the same size all the time, so 1, I want them to bounce maybe a third of their sizes, of their speed, sorry. So this is already a lot better, but they are gliding on the ground way too much. So I change the dampen. The dampen is how much they glide. That's the friction of the, how do I say that, of the ground. So I want them to dampen this, like this. That's already a lot better. Now let's say, that's already pretty good already. But let's say I don't want them to dampen that much. That's maybe like this. Now -3, that's good. I want them to bounce maybe a bit more. Okay. And I want them to die faster when they hit something. -2. You can't actually see it, but if I press it to 1, as soon as they touch the plane, they die. If I put it to -5, 2.5, sorry, they die twice as fast when they touch the ground. And I think that's already a good start for some sparks. Maybe they need more variation in the colors too. So let's add maybe some that are a bit redder. That's already good. And let's add at the beginning, oops, let's take this color here and let's add a new one, white. It's gonna be a bit more white. I think they are a bit too big. Maybe let's add some more. And let's change the shape too. Because here you can see the radius is pretty big, but it's not really what I want. So 0.1. And here it's already a lot better. Now let's change the size of our lifetime. I want them to be big at the beginning and to get smaller at the end of their life. So let's do this. 1 at the beginning, and then take this point and take it down here. Not sure you can actually see the difference, but it already looks a lot better to me. And I think that's good already. What is nice also with the gravity module is that you can change this. So you can have some sparks going there. Let's make them a bit faster. And they will always follow the gravity, the world gravity. So yeah, that's already some sparks here. Now let's rename this particle system sparks. Let's say I want some glow where this one is happening. Let's add a new particle system to it. I don't want them to have such a lifetime. I want them to stay on the same place, just a point, a mesh, vertex, and the emission. Yeah, I think that's okay. Maybe less, maybe 6. Okay, let's use the glow one. And let's say they live between -1 and -2. And that the size is between 0.4 and 2. Maybe a bit more, maybe 0.8 and 2.5. And let's put it, let's keep it there, maybe a bit bigger sometimes. Color of a lifetime, here, new point in the alpha, take this to 0, so that it's transparent, then fully visible, then it goes transparent again, like this. And let's give it some nice colors. And here, run down, between some yellow and some more orange. And here you have already some nice particles. But let's say I want this glow to be a bit bigger, a bit brighter. Let's go back to our additive base shader and simply just multiply again by pressing V, value, and let's call it glow intensity. Let's say I want this intensity to be 1 by default. Let's multiply it like this. Now in the material you see I have a new value here, and I can say that this value is gonna be, I don't know, 3. Maybe that's a bit too much, 2. Here you can see the glow is much brighter. And here you can see that's something I really don't like. You can see it coming from the side, from before the glow. So that's something you always have when you use stretched particles, because, well, they are stretched in the middle of their sizes. So that's not something you want. So how to correct this is simply, that's the solution I found. Maybe there's better than that, but I don't know. So just put this here, alpha, and put it a bit on the right. Here, this one here. It's a bit some tweaking here, but you can see it's already better. Okay. This is already a lot better. So let's name it glow. Let's add maybe more to it, maybe 10. And maybe a bit smaller here, bigger here. And there you have it, a very simple sparks particle system. So here we saw how to set up a first basic shader, then some materials, how to make a simple texture in Photoshop, and then how to import it, and then how to make the particle system. So hope you learned something, and if once again, if you have any suggestions or feedback, please just tell me, and I'll always reply to you, don't worry. So don't be afraid to ask for anything. And thank you for watching.